to admit something. As I've gotten older, it has become harder and harder for various things to be surprising, to be really amazing, to be enjoyable, whatever you want to say. It's been very surprising. And so when things happen that are surprising to me, I kind of like to tout them a little bit sometimes, but particularly when those things are surprising to me in really joyous ways. I wanted to take the time today to talk on a subject that I've titled The Dam Bursts on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Thursday, the 12th of May of 2022. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page, on the Kurt's Religion and Politics page, particularly on Facebook, on kurtzreligionpolitics.locals.com, on minds.com, MINDS, that would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics group primarily. They're on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be catching me today. Subject again for the day is a dam burst, and I'm going to go through my notes really quickly to get you where I am so that you'll at least know that, and then you can sort of draw your own conclusions as you go. I've said a number of times I live with a son who's moderately level 2 autistic, middle of the autism spectrum basically. I'm not by any means saying every day with my son is not a gift. It absolutely is. That considered, it's been a lot of work for me to help him get where I believe he'll need to be in order to live a full life. Having said that, allow me to knock it down. The fact is, far and away, my boy has done a ton more work than I have. To say he's had to constantly be toiling, trying to get things where they need to be, would not be an overstatement. He's had to work a bunch. I've talked in a piece called, in fact, Blake Doesn't Talk, about a young man in Garrett's class in his elementary school. I called that podcast What I Did because, well, Blake didn't talk. More than that, the funny thing is that my child was acutely aware of and made a statement to the effect that, in his way of thinking, there's something wrong with Blake. That's what made my recent interaction with young Blake an absolute joy. My son decided sometime recently that he needed to be in a higher grade than he was. I get it. I understand his impatience. That's where he is at the moment. The result is one day he walked back out of the school to tell me his teacher had told him he basically no longer belonged in the school. He belonged in middle school or high school. One of the two, he couldn't really decide which, but that's okay. I get it. I carefully and easily guided him back into the building and into the presence of his teacher. He knew, my son. At that point, he was, quote, busted, end of quote. Dad had caught him. He well understood that Daddy and his teacher were going to talk things over, thus destroying his chance to launch ahead in his educational career. My conversation with the educator was short and to the point. As usual, on the way out of the classroom door, I addressed my son and told him how much I loved him and wished him a good day. Here's where the more than pleasant surprise came. This other young man, Blake, was sitting in his chair facing the doorway in which I stood. I need to tell you at this point, I'd never heard him utter a single word. He'd vocalized, but he'd never spoken a word in my presence. As I bade my boy farewell for the day, Blake looked at me, and for the first time ever, granted for me, not necessarily for him, he spoke, and better yet, along with his bye-bye, he waved. And, as I recall, said good day when I told him to have a good day. Needless to say, I was blown away by this. I got a chance to talk to his mom later and found out he'd really just started talking very recently at all. You might wonder why I'm bringing it up here. To begin with, I want you to understand how very much what happened meant to me. I've been through lots of things. Very few of them were this significant in my life. I want you to know that. But on top of that, I desire to let folks know it's very possible nobody ever expected Blake to speak. The point here is, even in situations where you think things are hopeless, and I'm talking about with special needs folks specifically, but this is generally true, what's to come is not necessarily known. You could take what I'm getting at here as take heart and have hope. I wasn't convinced I'd ever see the day Blake would talk at all. I certainly had no reason to believe he would talk to me. You should know I'm honored he did so, since for him, even now, it's a thing of effort to do. And by the way, he probably will only do it with people that he actually trusts somewhat. So, if you're thinking things are never going to get any better, allow me to say something. Sometimes we trap ourselves in that place of believing that that's true. Stop, take a breath, and continue to work toward better things. Done with my notes. I'm going to start by saying something that's maybe a little bit of a downer in this whole process. Sometimes you're going to work towards better things and you're just not going to get them, at least for a time. You're just not going to get them. Other times, you're going to work towards better things and you'll see modest gains. But every once in a while, a little boy, a young man, you thought would never say a word, much less say a word to you or consider you as a person, will talk after more than 5 years, I guess it's been right around 5 years anyway, of not having done so for the first time that you hear it. And let me tell you, Blake is not my son, but it was one of the sweetest sounds I ever heard. No song, no piece of music I've ever heard was a sweeter thing, was a more dulcet tone than what came out of Blake's mouth. And it wasn't that he was so suave or anything like that. It was that him doing it at all was so incredible. You may think that you'll never see a great day. You may think that people who you deal with who are against special needs or whatever may never end up getting to the point where they can do things that you were pretty sure they'd never manage. Let me just tell you, giving up isn't the answer. Giving up is not the answer. The answer is you keep at it, you keep working, and you know what? If nothing ever comes of it, it's not because you didn't try. And it's not because the special needs person didn't try either. There are some things that, I've said before, look, you're never going to jump to the moon unaided. You better be, able to bust out of the atmosphere and breathe nothing, right? So that's not going to happen. It's obvious that there are things that you'll never accomplish, that you'll just never accomplish. And I get that. And that may be, and that's just as true, I should say. It's not maybe, but it's just as true for somebody like Blake as it is for anyone else. But I want for you to understand this one thing. If you don't try, you may, but probably you will not succeed. Seeing Blake talk, hearing Blake talk, hearing him respond and react, even though I knew very well there were lights in that boy's eyes from pretty much the first time I ever saw him that made me know that there was a lot of activity going on in that head. Even so, I was not sure I would ever hear that boy talk. And I am here to tell you, this to me is literally a gift of God, and it's worth more than a whole bunch of treasure in my mind. It's just something nobody will ever be able to take away. And I don't know, maybe his parents are not in that place that I am. Maybe for them, they hoped for it, or they knew it was coming, or they saw it coming, and it was less of a sort of shock to the system than it was to someone like me looking on from the outside who didn't get to see Blake very often. Because I don't these days, particularly what with COVID and various other things, I really don't get the chance to see him very often. But the thing is, I'm here to tell you, when you see something like that, you begin to really comprehend the idea that all things are possible. You really do. I do. That's how it works for me. So if it doesn't work that way for you, we may disagree on that. We may, that may not be how things work for you. But I'll just tell you right now, very few things in my life have said to me, keep going, keep pushing forward, keep moving, not just with your son, not just with your moderately autistic son, but as a general thing, because if you are faithful and continue to try, I'm not telling you things are going to happen for you, but that's the way you're gonna have a chance they will. So, that's pretty much what I wanted to say today. This has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Thursday, the 12th of May of 2022. It means tomorrow will be that Friday the 13th for you who are superstitious. I'm sorry to tell you this, I'm not, but, that's just life. But anyway, tomorrow will be the Friday the 13th of May, which, of course, at sundown will be the beginning of the Sabbath for those who observe it. Hope your Sabbath is a good one tomorrow. I'll probably talk to you before then, all things being equal. Thank you for coming along on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That's the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. On kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, on minds.com, primarily on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group there, though Let's Talk Autism will probably get this video today. On Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, wherever else you might be hearing or seeing me today. Subject for today is the dam bursts, and it was an awesome thing to see. I just want you to know. Tomorrow we're going to talk about a subject that I wish a lot of people would consider, particularly when they're younger. I understand that they don't. I get it to some degree, but that subject is family planning. I hope you're having a good day today. As usual, I hope everything is going well for you and continues to do so. And hopefully we will see you again on Friday the 13th of May's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was created on Thursday, the 12th of May of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back tomorrow to check out the next one. Remember, on various platforms, primarily Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub, and the audio podcast, you can subscribe to my content. For the audio podcast, you probably want to use Apple, Google, or Spotify. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. In order to find me on those platforms, you can go to the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub. You can also get to my content on Facebook by finding the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. minds.com, where you will find me at the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, and Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com as well. You can look there. I post my daily video on various social media sites, really only about 3, Parler, Gab, and Twitter at present. I am at KP Schubert on each of them, and you can find me under them, and you can find the videos under me. You should be able to find my podcasts on Google and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's also on podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. If you're looking for me on various of the podcast sites, you probably want to search Kurt's Religion and Politics, not the Daily Summation. Keep in mind, you can subscribe to my content on various places that I put it. All constructive feedback is welcome. You can like, dislike, add a rumble, or give whatever feedback is available on any of the platforms that you can do such things. You can also add a comment on what I put there. Unless you're advertising or doing something that I believe will harm others, I'll leave your comments out there even if I don't agree with or understand them. I will try to let you know I've seen them when possible and may reply if I feel it's reasonable, appropriate, and possible, of course. Thanks again for viewing this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back again for tomorrow's as well.